First contact in the ER. Medical Officer's Log, Galactic Date 7249.3. Chief Medical Observer ZYXTAL reporting from Earth Station 1, Chicago Central Hospital. I never expected my first encounter with humans to involve watching one survive being crushed by a cargo loader. Yet here I was, mandibles clicking in disbelief, as the patient laughed while recounting how the 2-ton machine had just kind of pinched a bit. When the council assigned me to Earth as part of our medical exchange program, they warned me humans were surprisingly resilient. That's like saying a supernova is somewhat warm. I've spent 3 cycles studying 47 known sentient species, and none of them compare to these remarkable beings. The incident occurred during my first shift. Emergency alerts blared through the hospital's primitive communication systems, a workplace accident at the local spaceport. I accompanied Dr. Sarah Chen, my human counterpart, expecting to document standard triage procedures. Instead, I witnessed something that challenged everything I knew about biology. The patient, Mike O'Malley, arrived conscious and complaining, not about his clearly crushed lower body, but about missing his lunch break. My diagnostic scanner showed multiple compound fractures, severe internal bleeding, and tissue damage that would have meant certain death for any other species. Dr. Chen's response? She rolled her eyes and muttered something about typical dock worker stubbornness. While the medical team worked, I observed in fascination. Humans don't have redundant organs like the Centaurians. They lack the rapid healing factor of the Rigelians. Their bones aren't reinforced with natural carbon fiber like my species. Yet somehow, they endure. See this? Dr. Chen pointed to the imaging display. The loader crushed his pelvis, but look at the bone structure. It's already attempting to stabilize itself. Humans have this amazing ability to adapt to trauma in real time. That's when I noticed something extraordinary. The human body wasn't just surviving, it was actively fighting back. Cell regeneration rates exceeded anything in our medical databases. Stress hormones that would poison other species were actually enhancing his survival chances. Happens all the time, O'Malley said between bites of something called a vending machine sandwich. I'm still unsure if these qualify as food. Last year, I got caught in a coolant leak. Doc here said I should have been frozen solid, but I just got a nasty cold. Dr. Chen later showed me the hospital's archive of workplace incidents. Humans surviving vacuum exposure during hull breaches. Construction workers walking away from falls that would shatter most exoskeletons. A maintenance technician who accidentally absorbed enough radiation to kill a small Jovian whale, only to develop what they called a weird tan. But it was what happened next that truly shook me. As we finished treating O'Malley, alarms blared again. A shuttle had crashed on landing. Multiple casualties expected. Dr. Chen grabbed her kit, and I followed, dreading what we'd find. The scene was chaos by any civilization standards. Burning wreckage. Toxic fumes. The kind of environment that requires full hazmat protocols on most worlds. Yet there were humans, unprotected humans, pulling survivors from the wreckage with their bare hands. Need some help here. A rescue worker emerged from the smoke, carrying 2 victims. Their hands were burned from hot metal, but they didn't even seem to notice. Another team was literally lifting pieces of the shuttle's hull, ignoring the searing heat and sharp edges. I watched in awe as Dr. Chen coordinated the response. These humans weren't just surviving, they were thriving in conditions that should have been lethal. They worked through their own injuries, ignored environmental hazards, and kept going long past the point of exhaustion. As we treated the last of the victims, I finally understood why the Council was so interested in human medical data. These beings aren't just another sentient species. There's something else entirely. Evolution took a look at the usual survival strategies, armor, redundancy, regeneration, and decided to try something completely different. Humans are living proof that sometimes the best defense isn't armor or healing or redundancy. It's the sheer, stubborn refusal to acknowledge that you should be dead. End log. Personal note, must remember to requisition more data storage. Something tells me this assignment is going to generate a lot of interesting case studies. Also, need to investigate this coffee substance the humans keep consuming. Perhaps it's the source of their power. The breaking point. Medical Officer's Log, Galactic Date 7249.8. Chief Medical Observer ZYXTAL reporting. The High Council demanded proof. They couldn't accept my initial findings about human durability. So we began the tests. You want me to do what now? Lieutenant James Cooper stared at me across the laboratory, his expression showing what humans call amusement. I had just asked him to participate in our strength assessment trials. We need to document human physical limitations, I explained, manipulating my holographic displays. Your military agreed to provide volunteers. Right, he grinned, cracking his knuckles, a sound that still makes my carapace shiver. Let's break some alien equipment. The first test involved pressure resistance. We placed Cooper in our standard testing chamber, designed to simulate deep space conditions. Most species reach their breaking point at 3x standard atmospheric pressure. We had to shut down the test at 12x when the chamber's seals started failing. Cooper's response. He yawned. Temperature trials proved equally baffling. Humans don't just endure temperature extremes, they adapt to them. We observed their bodies actually modifying their cellular structure to cope with conditions that would liquidate most species' internal organs. Back home in Alaska, we used to go ice swimming, Cooper mentioned casually while his body temperature dropped to levels that should have induced coma. Great way to wake up in the morning. The impact resistance tests broke our equipment. Literally. The measuring devices maxed out while Cooper complained about being a bit sore. 3 of our senior researchers requested immediate retirement. But it was the endurance trials that truly shocked us. We monitored Cooper as he ran. And ran. And kept running. Other species have faster sprint speeds, but humans just don't stop. After 12 hours, we had to end the test because our monitoring staff needed rest breaks. You guys should try ultramarathons, Cooper suggested, barely winded. Though maybe start with something easy, like a 50-miler. Word of our findings spread through the galactic scientific community. Delegations arrived from dozens of worlds. The Earthlings brought their legendary battle testing units. The Zener contributed their most advanced medical scanning technology. Even the reclusive void dwellers emerged from their nebula to observe. Every test revealed new impossibilities. Humans heal from injuries that would require complete organ replacement in other species. They remain conscious at blood loss levels that should induce immediate system failure. Their bones, rather than shatter under extreme stress, actually become stronger. It's called Wolff's Law, Dr. Chen explained during one of our briefings. Bone structure adapts to pressure by adding mass exactly where it's needed. Our bodies literally rebuild themselves to handle whatever we throw at them. The implications terrified many of our visitors. A species that grows stronger from adversity? That treats lethal conditions as mere inconveniences? The military applications alone caused 3 minor diplomatic incidents and 1 declaration of preemptive surrender. But it was Cooper's final test that truly changed everything. We were studying human reaction to isolation, a weakness in most evolved species. 3 days in, our sensors detected a problem. Cooper's brain activity was abnormal. Not diminished, as expected, but increasing. We found him in the isolation chamber, having used his shoelaces and some spare wire to construct a crude game board. He'd invented a new sport to pass the time. And was playing against himself. And losing. That's when I realized what truly makes humans different. It's not their physical durability, impressive as that is. It's their minds. Their creativity. Their ability to not just survive adversity, but to transform it into opportunity. The Council's response to my latest report was unprecedented: immediate classification of humans as a protected species. Not to protect them from the galaxy, but to protect the galaxy from the implications of their existence. The Unbreakable Mind. Medical Officer's Log, Galactic Date 7250.2. Chief Medical Observer ZYXTAL reporting. Today we discovered something more terrifying than human physical resilience: their psychological durability. The incident began during routine stress monitoring of deep space miners. Humans work in conditions that drive other species to madness: months of isolation, crushing pressure, and absolute darkness. Standard protocol requires rotating crews every 2 weeks to prevent psychological breakdown. The humans? They volunteer for 6-month shifts. Gets pretty peaceful down there, explains Sarah Martinez, chief mining engineer. She was describing her experience 2 kilometers under Europa's ice, in pressure conditions that would collapse most species' neural pathways. Great place to catch up on reading. Our psychological evaluation team nearly resigned en masse when they reviewed the data. Humans don't just tolerate isolation, they adapt to it. While other species' brains deteriorate under sensory deprivation, human minds create their own stimulation. They call it imagination. We call it controlled hallucination that somehow enhances survival. But the real breakthrough came during the crisis at Mining Station Delta. A structural failure trapped 3 workers in a sealed compartment. External sensors showed lethal conditions: toxic gas, minimal oxygen, complete darkness. Rescue would take at least 30 hours. We monitored their neural patterns, expecting to document the stages of psychological collapse. Instead, we watched in astonishment as they organized a poker tournament. With imaginary cards. And kept accurate scores. Helped pass the time, Martinez shrugged after their rescue. Though Jim still owes me 20 credits from that last hand. The Council's psychiatric experts were baffled. Humans possess no natural mental defenses. No backup neural systems. No biological fail-safes. Yet they resist psychological trauma through sheer force of will. Further studies revealed more impossibilities. Humans use humor, the voluntary distortion of reality, as a defense mechanism. They intentionally seek out stressful situations for fun. They form social bonds under conditions that trigger territorial violence in every other known species. You should see our family reunions, Martinez joked while reviewing the data. Now that's psychological trauma. But perhaps most disturbing is their response to existential threats. When faced with certain doom, humans don't shut down. They innovate. They adapt. They make jokes about their impending demise. The Council has classified these findings at the highest level. The idea that a species could evolve without standard psychological limitations, it challenges everything we thought we knew about survival. The experiment. Medical Officer's Log, Galactic Date 7250.6. Chief Medical Observer ZYXTAL reporting. The Galactic Science Council approved an unprecedented experiment: voluntary human exposure to conditions that would destroy most life forms. Our subject, Dr. Emma Hayes, quantum physicist and, in her words, professionally curious. The testing chamber, reinforced with every known protective material, looked more like a torture device. Hayes examined it with unsettling enthusiasm. So this simulates the conditions inside a neutron star's outer layer, she asked, already putting on the monitoring equipment. Neat. What followed defied explanation. Hayes' body began adapting to forces that should have reduced her to atomic particles. Her cells restructured themselves, forming patterns never seen in biological organisms. She remained conscious, taking notes. The pressure's actually helping me think, she commented during the 3rd hour. Really clears the mind. Then came the radiation tests. Other species have natural shielding. Humans don't. Yet Hayes' body started producing new proteins specifically to counter radiation damage. She called it, getting a tan. Our xenobiologists called it impossible. The breaking point came during the vacuum exposure trial. Hayes didn't just survive, she used the experience to solve a complex physics equation she'd been working on. Something about the void helps you focus, she explained afterward. But the most shocking discovery wasn't her survival. It was her brain activity. Under conditions that would lobotomize most species, Hayes' neural patterns showed increased complexity. She was evolving in real time. The Council has ordered all data classified. The implications are too dangerous, a species that treats lethal environments as learning opportunities. Humans don't just endure, they improve. Evolution's mistake. Medical Officer's Log, Final Entry. Chief Medical Observer HFY reporting. Today we discovered the truth about human durability. It wasn't evolution. It was a mistake. Our genetic analysis revealed something unprecedented: human DNA contains damaged repair sequences. In every other species, these sequences limit regeneration to prevent unstable mutations. In humans, they're broken. When humans experience trauma, their bodies don't just heal, they rebuild without restrictions. Each injury creates new adaptations. Every survival scenario rewrites their genetic code. You mean we're basically living mutations? Dr. Chen asked when I shared the findings. That explains a lot about human history. The implications staggered us. Humans aren't durable because they evolved that way. They're durable because their bodies never got the message to stop evolving. Every generation becomes more resilient than the last. The Council's response was immediate: full integration of humans into galactic society. Not as another member species, but as living proof that the universe's mistakes sometimes create its greatest miracles.